mine a cave, then come out of it and see an enraged bear encoded with dark nin. Oh god, no. Oh my goodness. Get ambushed by thieving bandits. Panic very hard because you failed to allocate your resources properly and now your whole village is starving. And last but not least, having to deal with your own villagers trying to steal your wife behind your back.
How is life treating you?
Now don't give me that, how's life treating you? You're not getting a harem. This is your second time. Leave my wife alone. I love this game and I want to shine some light on it because I think it's heavily underrated. And also there isn't too many really in-depth reviews of this game. So that brings the question. What is Medieval Dynasty? To put it simply, it's a town building survival sim. And man, does it require patience. But once you get going, things can sometimes look really alive. This game has a story, not really super in depth, but it's not really supposed to be. But wait, don't worry, you're in good hands. This is a spoiler-free review. But essentially, you the player named, I'ma butcher this, but Rakmir, you was a peaceful living peasant, you know, tending the farm and all, but everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. You lost everything, seemingly overnight, all before your eyes. At a last-ditch effort, your father tells you this: son, you must leave and disappear quicker than a deadbeat dad with responsibility. And you escape, but now you're sitting at a campfire lost and hopeless. The light seems rather dim until it dawned upon you. You're so excited you started clenching your fist tightly. You just remembered about a story your mother told you about your uncle on how he was making massive amounts of bank in a peaceful valley far away from the war. So with this reignited flame, you headed to the valley, and this is where the game starts. So basically, what if the humans never attacked and Henry remained a common peasant, basically? Now, at first, you're going to be kind of confused, but don't worry, that's why you have me. You want to head over to this village and talk to this guy. After you are done talking to him, you will see something to the right of your screen, and it says, Chapter 1, A New Beginning, which deviates from the main story quest. To make it sound less confusing, it's more so, think of kind of like, damn, I can't think of a good analogy. Oh, I got it. Imagine you are skinny and lost a fight to a bigger person and want revenge. Naturally, you are thinking about heading to the gym, but before you do that, you set progression goals for yourself. Instead of doing 5 reps on the bench, you try to hit the next stage by doing 10 and so forth. Eventually doing various other workouts, you eventually become a Giga Chad, and then you see your bully and you one-shot him. That's basically chapters. Instead, you are building a community from the ground up the same way you built your body from the ground up. Now you want to start off gathering 10 sticks and 2 stone. And now you have the materials to make possibly one of the greatest tools known to man. Something that has served humans well dating back to 6000 BC. And if you haven't guessed, yeah, it's the axe. And with this axe, you're going to cut down some trees. But mind you, be careful. These trees are more than capable of sending you to the shadow realm from time to time. Yeah, no way that just happened. And just like that, it's time to build your first house. But something that's really important, make sure you pick the perfect landscape. I mean, this is where you're going to build your kingdom after all. For example, I picked one of the more worser spots. You want to make sure the ground is flat, because if not, you will run into situations like this, to where you can't really build forward. Well, in my case, I had to make my village super long because the ground north of me was uneven, and it's a pretty long run to get to the start and finish. But if I had to do a second playthrough, a good spot would be right near these 3 villages. You'll be supplied with a good amount of vendors, which are short distance too, and then there are also a mine which you can extract the minerals to craft more stronger tools. Now to build a house, you will want to craft a wooden hammer. Now looking back, there's a huge mistake I made. Please, for the love of God and any other thing that's holy, do not make wattle houses. You should preferably make them out of wood or stone. Stone being the absolute best, because with weak wattle houses, they get damaged pretty easily as the seasons pass. And you have to constantly repair them over and over again. Now, if you are done building your house, absolutely do not go up to a villager and ask them to join your settlement. I'm begging you. I learned this the hard way, because us humans, as we know, need things like water and food, and also the right conditions to stay warm in our homes. But anyways, for basic essentials, you need to build a hunting lodge, a well for water, a food storage, a workshop, a wood shed, and a resource storage, and also a barn. I didn't have that, So gradually my one resident mood got really low. I mean, just listen to her voice.
How can I help you?
Yeah, that tone does not sound like somebody that's happy. Now onwards to the next segment about combat and hunting, which for those who are expecting some amazing Dragon's Dogma type of combat, this game doesn't have that. It's very basic by design. It's just more so a slash hit mechanic. No grappling, no parrying. Block mechanics is also very basic, which is made this way on purpose. The game really at its core is more so town building than survival action focus. So if you were somebody that was more so into action, more so than anything else, I wouldn't advise buying this game. Moving on to hunting. After you kill an animal, you are then able to extract food. How much you get depends on the animal size, and then you just go over to the campfire and cook it. The only unique thing I can say about hunting is the survival sense, which you activate by hitting Alt. It's a pretty decent mechanic that lets you track down the animal and various other things. Now, this game's progression system is much like Kingdom Come Deliverance. I only keep comparing to Kingdom Come Deliverance more so because my audience really came from that video. Not trying to say Medieval Dynasty is a straight up Kingdom Come clone, but the skill and progression is more so do a certain amount of things and it will gradually improve. Now I want to talk about the abilities you can get from leveling up certain skills. You have 6 of them in total. The extraction skill is good for, well, extracting things. For example, cutting things with an axe is pretty slow, but if you have the Woodcutter's Trance perk, you can cut trees 30% faster. So fast a Lorax will have a seizure if he saw you. I'm moving slightly off topic, but it's very important that you listen to what I have to say. After you finish cutting a tree, you would see that a stump is left. And naturally, you see that it requires a shovel to remove, and you press Q to go craft it. But stop! You're doing yourself more harm than good. Let me take you to class and explain. The reason why is that tree will never grow back. If you leave the stump, it will grow back in 2 years. Only really remove it if it's in the way of a building you want to place down. Next is hunting skills, which is a skill tree that determines how proficient you are in combat and skinning animals. Basically, you are Peta's worst nightmare. This next skill has served humanity for approximately 10,000 years. It gave us rice. It gave us bread. And also in a way, it gave us our furry friends. Introducing the farming skill. This determines how proficient you are farming and breeding animals. This next skill has served us well since the start of time. It is the reason why the world hasn't been nuked out of existence. It is the reason why we can get girlfriends and boyfriends. Shout out to my 2.4% of female viewers. Introducing the diplomacy skill, a skill that makes you good at conversating, flirting, and trading. This next skill is a little bit different because it proposes me to ask you this one question. How have us humans made it this far? I'll answer that for you, matter of fact. It's because your ancestor, our ancestor, had to go through treacherous weather conditions, having to survive through various plagues, and had to fight through hellish battles like D-Day. Now we have men who power trip as Reddit mods. We used to hunt with spears. Spears, I tell you. What has happened to society? If you haven't guessed it yet, it is the survival skill, which helps us in, well, surviving and gathering. Last but not least, I hereby bring to you the production skill, which determines how good you are in crafting and cooking. The second progression system is building technology, which there are 4 systems: survival, farming, and production. It's just like the skill progression, except you're getting access to better and locked buildings. Now, what's interesting about this game, everything kind of correlates together. Like for the well, to produce water, you need a bucket, but then you need logs, and then you need the woodshed to make planks, and then you need the workshop to actually make the bucket. You need the farm to get flax, and then you need to get flax stalks by thrashing it into the barn, and then you need a seamstress to turn 10 flax stalks into linen thread, which with that linen thread, you can then finally make a bow. In my opinion, this makes the game feels more immersive in that matter. When I was playing Medieval Dynasty, I quickly realized that farming is one of the most relaxing things in this game. It's like you reached peak enlightenment. First you set down the field, then you grub it up by using the gardening tool. After that you then use fertilizer. Then you plow with the gardening tool. Then you put down the seed, but depending on the season determines what seed you can put down. Cabbages, for example, can grow through spring through summer and summer through autumn, but you can't grow them in winter. So if you are a vegan role-playing settlement, it's important that you don't miss a single season. But now, I actually think it's a good time to finally start talking about seasons. The default length of each season is 3 in-game days, but you can customize in the menu for it to be shorter or longer. The first season is spring, which I think is the worst. You may be like, why, Devoid? Spring is when the flowers start blooming and trees start to grow leaves again. I don't understand why you hate it so much. I'll give you the answer. You see, all these buildings I have, it's a lot, isn't it? And there's something everybody around the world hates: pain. It's the reason why there's even more divide between the rich and the poor. If you hasn't guessed, it's the dreadful taxes, which is in this game, you have to pay every spring to the king. Now, if you don't pay, the king comes down himself with his royal army. And I mean, it's the medieval times. I'm pretty sure we all know the type of torture this era would bestow upon you. I'm just playing. At most, you just get kicked out of the valley. Now, there are said ways of reducing taxes. Usually it requires you doing favors for the king or challenges depending on how you put it. This guy will show up called a herald. He can say a variety of things, but for me, it was collect food for the king and his hungry soldiers. If you don't do these challenges, your king has a higher chance of dying. Now, this is quite interesting, and I didn't notice this till later in the game. There are good kings, neutral kings, and bad kings. If you do a challenge for a good king, generally tax decreases, and also, interesting enough, the villagers' mood goes up as well. Now, with a neutral king, taxes just decreased, and yeah, nothing happens. But with a bad king, if you do him a favor, taxes decrease, but your villagers' mood decreases. And if you accept the quest and ignore it, taxes increase and villagers' mood increases. Now, the next season is literally what every kid looks forward to. The beaches are packed. Probably already guessed, but yes, I am talking about summer. Make sure you aren't wearing any warm clothes in the summer because you can overheat. Next is autumn. Yeah, I don't really have much to say besides the leaves change and the temperature just changes. Wait, I take that back. Autumn is really when everything is ready to harvest. You'll see quite a bit of mushrooms too as well. The thing you should collect for the next season is these things called broadleaves. They really are everywhere. You should get the survival sense perk because it makes it vastly easy to see them. You can use them to heal yourself. It doesn't heal too much though. You should collect a lot of them. You can make them into potions in the herbalist hut and heal yourself for a lot more. Last but not least, winter, which could be a punishing season for new players. This season, you should be wearing warm clothes like fur boots and a fur jacket, which can be bought, crafted, or found in bedded encampments. You can find these scattered across the map. Make sure you check it all the way because you can make some pretty decent money from the things that's left on the ground. For example, this mead sells for quite a bit, and making money in this game isn't exactly easy until later in the game. After each season has ended, you will teleport back to your bed. Now, it took me a while to get to this part of the game, but it's what every man and woman sometimes dream of. It's the ultimate bonding between two humans, and yes, that is getting married. In this game, getting a wife can kind of take a while, but essentially you just go up to her and it starts off with small talk like this. When I first arrived in the valley, it made an amazing impression on me. How do you like it here? And somehow, some way you gain 10% affection from that. All I'm saying, that's not working in the real world. But gradually as your affection builds with a woman and hits 100%, you'll be able to have the option of being able to marry her. And a pretty special cutscene happens. Your wife will now have a pink icon above your head once it's over with. Now, having a wife is really important because it's literally how you start your dynasty. To have a child, go up to your wife, but first make sure you are clean because just like in Kingdom Come Deliverance, the way you present yourself matters in this game. They outright don't talk to you. To clean yourself, just go find a lake and sink yourself into it. Now that you do that, you can finally talk to your wife. Select romance, and then you will see the option. I think we are ready to have a child. What do you think? And she tells you to meet at her house after 7 p.m. Then after a few seasons pass, then boom, you have a child. Now, I strongly advise you to do every side quest your wife and son gives to you. One of those side quests can give you quite a bit of money. Now, in Medieval Dynasty, you can have mounts, but how much these cost? $9,800? Jesus Christ. Yeah, They are quite expensive. A horse costs nearly 10,000 coins and a donkey costs 3,500. These are the only two mounts in the game. The obvious choice for transportation is the horse. This is really useful because in this game you can find yourself moving far distances from area to area. The controls feels a bit janky on the horse. I see this commonly with RPG games. I wonder from a game design perspective, it must be pretty hard to do. All in all, Medieval Dynasty is a pretty fun game in my opinion, but I think there's a lot of interesting concepts that they actually can introduce. I would love to raid villages and just fight off invaders.